Hi, my name is Stefan Coleman, and today I'd like to go over with you some of the alternatives to bankruptcy so we can compare and contrast them and hopefully just give you a flavor as to what the alternatives are and an idea of what you can expect moving forward. So the first type of alternative that I routinely hear about from my clients is the credit counseling route. And in my opinion, this makes sense for a lot of people who aren't so organized and don't have so much outstanding debt. In this way, you'll create, with your credit counselor, you'll carve out some sort of debt management plan, and if you stick to the plan, eventually you will pay off those debts, and that'll be great, and you'll continue to build up your credits, you'll continue to improve your credit score, I should say. The disadvantage to this type of alternative is for the right debtor does not make any sense at all. If you have an outstanding amount of debts disproportional to your income, no debt management plan is really going to make a lot of sense because you'll never be able to pay it. You'll never be able to actually follow through on it. If you have $100,000 or $150,000 worth of debt, that's accruing interest every month, and you're only making, let's say, $45,000. So it's not that foreseeable that you actually be able to pay off or stick to the debt management plan or find one that's realistic enough. Rather, you just file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and wipe away those debts completely if it's credit card debts or medical bills or some sort of unsecured debts that is dischargeable in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and just move on and use that time. It takes about 4 to 6 months to file it, to discharge a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and then you can start building wealth for you and your family from that point in time. The only problem that I see with these credit counseling agencies and the debt management plans is that, first of all, the statistics on actually completing the plan are very low. And for people who have outstanding debts, to be in some sort of situation like this for 2 or 3 years in a plan and trying to stick to the plan, that's not that realistic altogether anyway. Just to go to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the end, in my opinion, kind of delayed the inevitable and wasted your time for those 2 or 3 years. You could have filed 2 or 3 years ago, and you could have used that entire time you would have had that fresh slate. You could have been building up your credit again. You could have been building wealth for you and your family again. So again, it's very fact intensive and very person or very situation intensive on your own finances. The second alternative that I routinely see is the credit settlement agencies. These agencies are a little bit dangerous in my opinion because they make such broad and sweeping claims. Essentially what they do is they'll store a lot of the money that you would be paying to your creditors, and they'll use that as leverage to settle your debts. The only drawback that I see to this is that, first of all, you could totally do everything that they're doing on your own. You can call your own creditors and settle with them. You don't have to pay some agency fees. A lot of times the fees that you're paying totally wash away any of the benefit you're receiving from these settlements that they're making. So you have to be cautious. You also have to be cautious in the fact that any settlement that they do reach could be considered as income in terms of the IRS, as opposed to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy where you're not so much settling as you are discharging or wiping away many of your unsecured debts that are dischargeable in Chapter 7 bankruptcy. In addition, all those debts that you do discharge are not perceived as income according to the IRS. And finally, I would say the major type of alternative that I see is the debt consolidation loans out there. And I'll just caution my clients that if there's a possibility that even with this consolidation loan that they may still file for bankruptcy, I would just caution them to make sure they're not trading one type of debt for another type of debt that's not perceived so well in bankruptcy. Let me give you an example. For instance, it's not so wise if you may be filing for bankruptcy in the near future and you're using this as an effort not to take out a home equity loan in order to pay a credit card debt. Because if you're going to file, or if you may file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the future, you could have discharged that credit card debt without giving up anything in just a Chapter 7 bankruptcy petition anyway. So I'm not sure that you needed to give away that home equity that you worked so hard to build up altogether. So I would just caution clients about that as well. Again, those are some of the alternatives to bankruptcy. There's so much more to talk about in regards to this. There are also a couple of other alternatives such as loan workouts, forgiveness, speaking to your secured creditors as well. I would discuss this with a competent bankruptcy lawyer, someone who understands a little about real property and knows about loan modifications, and of course knows the ins and outs of a Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. If you'd like to speak with me, I'd be happy to speak with you, discuss your own personal financial situation, and talk about the advantages and disadvantages to filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, whether you qualify, and what will be the best option given the alternatives that are available. I'd love to speak with you. I'm available. Please give me a call. Thanks.